Hi, my name is Stephen Hill. I am the Executive Vice President of Entertainment, Music, and Talent Programming at BET. BET is Black Entertainment Television, started in 1980 by Robert L. Johnson on a $50,000 loan, I believe, and then the rest of the money came from an investment from John Malone. And he began BET as a once a week movie channel, and from there in 2001 was sold as a $3 billion business. At BET, I am responsible for the music programming that you see. I've been on the teams or led the teams that started a few of the shows that are more popular shows, 106 & Park, College Hill, working with Rap City, anything having to do with music programming, access granted, on and offs, but really and help select the music that we play on BET. We play shows on BET kind of to just compartmentalize videos in a certain time bracket. Usually that time corresponds to the viewing patterns of our audience. Shows start at the top of the hour for the most part and end either at the half hour or at the top of the next hour. 106 & Park, for example, is an all-request show. Through online votes and through phone votes, the audience selects the videos that appear on 106 & Park. Rap City, as you might imagine, is an all-hip-hop show, but shows like BET Now and The Center are interchangeable in the videos that they play. The interesting thing is that BET really became the place for African Americans to go to see themselves on television, to see black culture, to see black events, to see black artists. It really is, you go 40 years back. BET's 20 years old. You go 40 years back, and there wasn't even a black character on television that had their own show. Julia obviously was the first. Flash forward 20 years, and it was still kind of the same. When you're seeing, African Americans on television was few and far between. And Bob Johnson had a business plan that said, look, you put on black programming by black people for black people, and it will grow. And it did grow quickly because there was a starvation for that type of entertainment on television. No, it's not mostly a music channel. I mean, in the beginning, it was steeped heavily in videos because it was a great business move. It was, videos were provided free by the record companies, and so it was low cost programming, and it's a great business model. As we get into 2000, even before 2000, we started with original programming. And this past year for BET has been, kind of just a great year, watershed year in original programming, with shows like Countdown to Lockdown, Little Kim, College Hill. This is the third season of College Hill that came through. Beef, The Next Level with Vince Young. I mean, there's a constant push and urge to get original programming on the air. The future for BET has really been set by Deborah Lee. She knows that to grow this business, any kind of media business, you have to expand and go where people are going, and that means expanding into the mobile business, being on computer. Any screen that's newly created, PDAs for human beings is where BET needs to be to grow as a business. So the next few years are all about content and providing content where our audience is. The selection process of picking music on BET. There are a number of labels out there that make videos. Videos are, as you might imagine, video representations of songs that they will send to us on a weekly basis in the hopes that we'll play them on the air or on our cable. Once a week, Monday, we have what we call our acquisitions meeting, which is where we get all of the videos that have been submitted the previous week from the labels and look at them. We look to see if they'll make good television programming on BET. And they may be artists that we already know, or new and breaking artists, or something that's exciting visually. There are a lot of things we look for when we look to put something on BET as a whole. On Tuesdays we have what we call and that's by committee. Our talent, our head of talent person is in there. Our music programming person is there. Our music programming manager is in there, and myself for acquisitions. When it comes to programming the channel, the music director and I sit on Tuesdays usually. We usually have our acquisitions meeting on Mondays. On Tuesdays, we take our current playlist and decide what's been on long enough to rotate off and what we might be putting on the playlist. And so sometimes videos will come straight from the acquisition meeting on Monday, and we'll add them to our playlist on Tuesday. A playlist is just a list of songs that we play. And sometimes there are videos that wait a little while before they get on, and some videos never get on BET. But our goal in Tuesday is to have a nice balance of hip hop, R&B, new artists, new emerging artists, more mature artists, hit artists that will make the visuals that appear on the channel pop and attractive to our audience. One of the more frustrating things for labels who submit the videos is there's no exact criteria for what makes it on the air. We will look at whether the artist has had previous success. We'll look at whether it's a new artist that's got a lot of buzz or has something going on in a certain region of the country that we think will translate to the larger part of the country. We look at the visual quality of the video. We look for something new in the video. Everybody can make a video with girls dancing around a pool and cars, but who's really going to make that intelligent next step with videos? Make it visually exciting, even if the song's not good. Not good is a horrible thing to say, but there are videos that can make songs better, and there are songs that are better than their visual representation. So we really look at everything. We look at everything, including what we already have on the air, to see where we might have holes. If there aren't not a lot of women on the air, women singing or women rapping on the air, we might look to see if there's something in our bin for that. There is definitely a strong correlation between what's played on radio and what's played on the video channels. I think a lot of it is because we use the same methodology, which is research. There's call-out research, which means we hire companies to call different people. For us, it's people around the country. For radio stations, it's people in their own cities, and play them the hook of a song, the 10-second part of a song that you're most likely to remember. You play that over the phone, and then the member responds, "Oh, I like that," or "I don't like that," or "I'm tired of that song." And so they accumulate the data and present it to us on a bi-weekly basis, and usually to radio it's on a weekly basis. So for us, it's always gut putting something on the air. But after it's been on the air for a while, we'll start researching it and see how our audience likes it. Because our goal is to keep things on that our audience likes, and then remove those things that they don't. Now I will say we do look at radio charts as well, more as a guide, but never as a it's here. So we've had, this way to put it is, there have been top 10 records that BET didn't play because it just wasn't right for us. But there are also songs that never hit the chart that we've played extremely heavily. So while it is a tool, it is not a guideline. Sadly, we can't really test videos, but when we play the songs over the air, we constantly remind the viewer that you're thinking about how you feel about the video for this song, not this song itself. It's really different for every show. For a music show, it's really just a good idea. I mean, the crucial things are a great idea, a great context, and usually great hosts, a great host or great hosts. What can I take you through? 106 in Park was simply, we knew we wanted a countdown show. We knew we wanted to have a countdown show on the air. So we made decisions, decisions after that were, well, do we do it live or do we do it taped? Okay, it'd be fun to do it live. With an audience or without an audience? With an audience. Okay, so we're not going to do it in the street, we're going to do it in the studio. And then we decided every day, for example, to make it different than just a countdown show, we'd add guests. We decided to every day do an old school joint and old school song, a new school song. and then have, the idea for all shows is to connect with the audience, and so we branded our studio audience the most live, the livest audience on television, which is stuck. But we also look for, through our BET.com, we look at for input from our audience out in the States as well.
You do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it really is, as much as the industry sometimes hates it, the songs on the videos that make it to 106 & Park are really chosen, as much as we can determine, by the audience. We do the BET Awards in conjunction with Cassette, who work on the Grammys as well. But as you can tell, we have a completely different flavor from the Grammys. The best thing that's ever been said about our award show is that artists love to come there, and that it feels like family. It doesn't feel like competition, and quite frankly, no one remembers the awards, but everyone remembers the performances. And so we really spend a lot of time working on making sure the performances are just right. The performances and the awards patter, kind of what the people who give away the awards say, are the keys to our award show.
Is it live?
It's live from Los Angeles. The BET Award Show is live from Los Angeles, usually the last Tuesday in June for the last 6 years. I knew I wanted to be in the music business almost as far back as I have memories. I mean, I was a radio junkie. Sunday mornings was all about getting up and immediately turning on the radio and listening to Casey Kasem's Top 40 and finding out what songs were where on the chart. I was a radio nut. I was a music nut. For some reason, early on in my life, I started reading credits. I would read credits. I could tell you who wrote what or who produced what. Even before producers were kind of de rigueur, it was like, I was just a voracious appetite for knowledge about the music that I loved. And it started. I grew up in Washington, D.C., where we had great radio stations, WOL and WOOK on AM. WPGC, which was a pop station at the time, is now like one of the top urban stations in the U.S. And what am I leaving? Oh, WKYS. Just great radio with great personalities. And one personality I absolutely kind of attached myself to was Donnie Simpson. Now, most people know Donnie Simpson as a host of a show on BET called Video Soul. But to me, Donnie Simpson was that guy in the morning. He was the morning guy at WKYS in Washington, D.C., and I just loved his style. He was so laid back. He was relatable. It really was as if someone was talking to you in the next room. That's how he was. In an age when DJs were still kind of, it's 15 past the hour on WWWW. Hey, coming up next, Donnie Simpson was like, oh, man, you wouldn't believe what I did last night. When I got home, and I was talking to my wife about. I mean, it was just like a conversation. You're like, "What in the world is?" And he was a brilliant interviewer, but I didn't know him. I just actually, just listened to him on the radio, and I was like, "Oh, I would love to be in radio. I'd love to work with music," because I knew I wasn't a musician. And I went to Brown University, and at Brown University they have WBRU, the radio station WBRU. And when I was a sophomore. My freshman year, they had come check out WBRU, see if you want to be involved. And so I went over, and they had I guess they called them smokers at the time, where they get everybody together and tell them about tell them about the channel, or the network, or the channel. I'm so TV now, about the station, and you get free records, and sometimes you get concert tickets. I'm like, well, this is pretty much what I spent all of my disposable income on, so sure, why not? And I loved being on the radio. Once I was on the radio, I started to listen to other stations and find out, well, why are they playing these songs in this order? And the mechanics of the station was extremely important. Learning the mechanics was extremely important to me. And so I did that while I was at Brown. And years later, I was hired to do part-time work at WILD in Boston, and that turned into full-time. I went from weekend person to program director, solely because while I was there, I was, again, I just wanted to know everything that was going on at WILD. Why do we play this many commercials in the commercial set? How do we select the music? So I was always in the general managers and the program directors' ear, and they rewarded that kind of appetite with a full-time gig. in 1988, and then I was there from 88 to 93. Went to work at the Tom Joyner Morning Show, 93, 94. Then moved to MTV, 95 to 99, and have been at BET from 99 through today. By the time I got to BET was already very, very well established in the black community. And it had been for a good 13 years or so before I got there. What I saw was an opportunity to make it broader and make it have. I kind of saw the advent of hip hop music being pop music, and how we could actually help facilitate that. And so I saw us being a bigger entity. It was in D.C. It was an entertainment entity in Washington, D.C. And I remember going into my interview and saying, you know, it's great and it serves well if you want to be a political entity, but if you want to be an entertainment entity, you have to move out of Washington. And they were extremely open to it, and within a year and a half, at least BET production or music production was able to move to New York, and that was really what triggered off everything. We had access to more talent. That's when 106 in Park was created, and so it really became that big entity that I think we on the team saw it becoming. The question posed is higher education important in the music industry? I think going to an institution of higher learning is important in the music industry, not necessarily for the classes that you go to, but for the environment that you're put in and can learn from while you're there. I went to Brown University. I was not the best student at all, but I took advantage of everything that the campus had to offer. I wanted to work on the school paper. I got to work in a radio station that was there was a college station, only that it was run by college students. It was a commercial station fighting for the same advertising dollars as every other station in Providence, Rhode Island. It was a great learning ground. Now, I have a degree in applied math and economics, and I'm not proud of this, but you know, the amount of economics I remember, because I haven't utilized it, could probably fit, you know, between the cover and first page of any magazine you want to throw it at me. But the wealth of knowledge I gained from interacting with people and learning radio there and learning communications with the radio and newspaper is absolutely priceless. So the actual classwork of going to a higher learning facility, I don't think is as important as being in an adult situation at a young age and learning from those around you. Sadly, there's nothing consistently that I see in artists that can make one succeed on top of another. It really is a series of unfortunate or fortunate events that makes an artist succeed. Number one, because most of artist success is measured this way, is in terms of record sales. And record sales are dependent on so many variables, not the most of which necessarily is individual talent. Because without naming names, we all know those who may not be as talented, who may not sing well, who may not rap well, but because they had a gimmick or they came along with the right beat at the right time, are successful. Conversely, we have found many people, I mean, we meaning you and me, we know a lot of people who are extremely talented, have music that we could not go to a desert island without, that can't get the time of day in a mass setting, you know, globally or even regionally or nationally. And a lot of it has to do with the way record companies are structured and how they go about finding their talent. And I'm not one to bash the record company system, as I don't bash those who find music in other ways besides through the record companies. But when it comes to, you know, the record company system is still very much the prevalent system for distribution of music. No matter what people say about the internet, and I love the internet, radio is still the number one place where people get their new music exposure. It's just true. So, radio, if records are not promoted to radio, if radio is not made aware of of new music or artists that others people think are really cool, then it's tough for that person to become successful. Um, it's not impossible. There are countless examples of radio programmers that would dig into records on their own and find things and play it for their audience, and then they get such great research, and then they pass that word on to people around it, around the country, and a record will explode that way. But a lot of the hits come from what's promoted. Not a bad thing, just a true thing. There's some martial art where kind of the whole thing behind the martial art is taking the opponent's momentum and have it go against them. And kind of what I try to do in people management, and I'm not always successful, but I really like to try that, is do kind of exactly the opposite. Take people's momentum and have it work for them. I'm really, really bad at kind of saying, oh, this person, you should do. I'm bad at goading people to do something and knowing what they want to do. I'm really good at, I want you to tell me what you want to do, and I want to help facilitate that. I want to help facilitate what it is that you want to do, because you, like me, will probably work harder, smarter, if you're doing something that you love. So, to that end, a lot of my people management is, first of all, building team and making sure there's a lot of information flow amongst the team. Second is really finding people, if you're, for example, my director of music, really wanted to produce things and had been around some productions but wanted to produce a few shows. Well, he's the music director, so of course he's not supposed to produce shows. But of course I had him produce shows. I had him, find artists that he wanted to work with and artists he was comfortable with, and then go out and produce a couple of shows. And he enjoyed doing that, and then he got tired of that, and so he's moved on to some other things. But I encourage people to dabble and find out what it is they really want to do. As long as it's almost like, as long as your homework's done, as long as your homework's done, you can go play. As long as the job that you're hired to be here and do is still accomplished, I strongly urge you to find your love, to find your passion, to find some place to play. People usually come to me when there's something, when there's conflict with another person, when there's not understanding what a job assignment might be, when morale is a bit down, and quite frankly I wish people would come a little bit earlier than when the morale is actually already at the nadir. But that's when it seems to come around, and much of the time I'll try to get everyone together to have people talk it out. Sadly, it's tough to get people to talk because they always feel there's going to be repercussion. Even when empirical data kind of proves no, I really want to know. You can speak your mind and there's no repercussion. It's tough to have open dialogue, especially in larger forums. So I try to have smaller forum discussions. Try to have a couple of people who I'll call moles, who are kind of on the front lines, kind of gather information and bring back as to never proper nouns, but what's really the ill in the office, and try to solve that. But mostly just try to have a good time. Try to encourage people to be creative. I keep telling people I'd much rather pull you back than push you out. I will applaud if you know what, John, that was a bit too far. That was a little too farther. I applaud your effort, but can we scale it back 10%? In a creative environment, I think that's extremely important. One of my favorite things to say is my worst day in the music business is better than my best day at banking. I'm one of the few, the fortunate, who really got to follow a passion from childhood through teenage years into my adult life, of working in music, working in television, working with artists that to me changed my life. I mean, music to me changes my life. There's songs that I hear that really, that if they're nostalgic, they take me back. But music consumes me, and people make fun of me kind of when they see me listen to music, because listening to me is not a it's not a non-physical event. Like, there has to be movement when there's some kind of music on, especially music that I love, and that I get to get that passion and get paid for it is just astonishing to me. I really feel like I'm the luckiest guy that I know. I'm sure that there are other people who feel that way, but I'm extremely blessed and extremely fortunate to do what I do for a living. Anybody who wants to be a host on television anywhere, I really believe, first, start off at cable access. Cable television is one of the greatest things in the world because it allows beginners to get their feet wet and allows them to get tape so that they can, host a show. Almost anybody can host a cable access show. That's what happened when kind of cable has to provide local channels for people to kind of do their own thing on. So that's still available to people. So go to your cable company, see if you can get a cable access show. They have plenty of equipment. There are ways to get it done. Put yourself on television, and then, truly critique yourself. I mean, look and see what you can do better, what you can improve on, and then start sending those tapes out to national or regional outlets. But really, you have to have a personality. I will admit, I'm looking for people with personality, and personality pops whether it's on a camcorder or whether it's on a beta camera, whatever it is. If you've got personality, it will pop. I have hired people who just sent me in tapes from camcorders. That was the start. Actually, my favorite story is Hits from the Street, which was a very popular show here a few years ago. He barged into my office actually and said, "Come on, put me on television. Put me on television." And I explained to him the idea of the show that we had thought of. And I said, find a camcorder, come back on Wednesday. This was a Monday, I remember. Come back on Wednesday and show me what you have. Well, I don't have a camcorder. I said, if you really want this, you'll find someone with a camcorder and get this done. And he came back with a tape today, it was a 15-minute long tape. I've never seen the last 7 minutes because the first 7 were so funny and so exactly what we needed that I hired him off of a camcorder to do a show. So it's really about personality. Don't send in headshots. Don't send in resumes if you want an on-camera gig. Get yourself on camera and send that tape in. With a nice a letter's fine, but really, the letter actually will get read after the tape is viewed. If there's any kind of spark on your tape, then I'll go, oh, well, let me see what this person writes and how this person communicates. But remember, it is a communications business, and the way you communicate is key. It's tough because I consider myself frequently. It's hard to tell someone the path to how I'm doing what I'm doing. I just consider myself the luckiest person in the world. There's so many times that my career could have gone like, oh, you're a banker, and stayed right there. Oh, you're a tree surgeon, and stayed right there. But for me, it was the passion. It was the passion for music and for communications that made me, even when I wasn't in this business, even when I was trying banking for a while, I was always reading Billboard. I was always reading radio and records. I knew kind of what songs were coming out. I knew who was hot. I've been very fortunate through a number of mentors to kind of have an ear for what's going to happen or see a trend. I'm still working at my old advanced age of kind of trying to predict trends, but I can see trends start and realize, oh, this is going to be huge. Let's get on it early. So that's helped me a lot. But it's really a mixture of people say it's who you know, and to a point that's correct, but it's much more about the what you know. Because if you run into the who you know without knowing anything, it's still not going to work for you. What you have to do is have the who you know and impress that who with knowledge, with something that's going to say, oh, I'm going to shepherd this person. I'm this guy. I will give everybody in the world my email. I don't care what you do. You can have my email address. You can contact me. My assistant does not touch my email. I am the only person that touches my email. I will say, contact me. Okay, first line. It's stunning how many people never use the email address. Never. If you email me once, I will email you back and give you something to follow up. If you follow up and say, I'd like to get together for a meeting, I will find a time at 9:30 in the morning, someday during the week, if you want to come into the office, for us to talk. It's that simple. There's no other screen. Now, in that 9:30 meeting, I would love it if you had done enough study about the business or study about the channel or something that makes me know that you're really hungry for this. Because what separates the people are those who are really hungry and those are just like, well, it looks kind of cool, man. I kind of want to do that. That sounds like something, being on TV or doing something would be fun. That's not it. I need to know what you're going to do to forward my business. What extra up am I going to get if I bring you on board? Or if I bring you on board and someone else, when someone else leaves, what more are you going to add to the business? I'm open because I realize, I don't get out all of the time. So people who approach me, okay, you got a bit of initiative. Do you have follow through? Initiative's good. Give me some follow through. Give me some information, and I will see what I can do for you.